You live here. You work here. You vote here. But did you know you can run for office too?
Today, we're talking to some internationals who decided to stop asking for change and become that change.
Welcome to episode 4 of Vote Home. And today's question is, what does it take to go from voter to candidate?
You may be surprised you don't need to be perfect at Danish. You don't need a degree in political science. All you need is passion, a clear message, and some paperwork. So today we're going to talk to some candidates who decided to do exactly that. And to get to know them, we are going to go around and let you know about these inspiring individuals who did just that, decided to be that change and run for office here in Denmark. So let's go around and hear from them. Hari, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're originally from, what you're running for, and what made you come to that decision?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me here in the program. And it is my privilege to be a part of kind of panel discussion. I came to Denmark in 2009 as an international student from Nepal. And then I completed my study habit degree in diploma and finally MSc from Nielsborg College. Then I got a green card. I completed my Danish language. Then I started a job as corporate consultant. Finally, I got permanent residence. And finally, I got Danish citizenship. Even though Danish citizenship is not the criteria for the local municipal council and regional council, I have got it.
Okay, so Harry, even if you get elected, you'll not break the ice about being the first international in Copenhagen history to be elected, because you are already Danish.
Mathematically, I'm Danish, and maybe I have adopted some of the Danish values and norms, but still so many Nepalese values where I come from, where I was born, and it's still in my baggage. And as per the necessity, I take it out and use it.
So you see, you still perceive yourself as an international. That's nice.
Yes, even though I proclaim myself as a Danish, people are not going to believe it. And even the Danes, they are not taking me as a Danish. And my own people, they will think rather negatively that he thinks he's Danish. And from both sides, I'll be taken very negatively. And this is not a good idea. Then I try to be what I am. Then I am still international citizen.
That's awesome.
So everybody's unsatisfied. I think that's a better thing is you bring two great things to the table, always something that not everybody else has. So
yeah, exactly.
Is that part of what inspired you for this decision to run?
Actually, I was also politically involved back to my home country. Even though I was not a politician, I was politically aware. Then I used to read the newspaper, used to closely observe the thing in the society and how political decisions they were affecting the normal people's lives and so on and so forth. Due to nepotism and high use of money in my country, I couldn't do that. But in Denmark, this is not the case, something different. Then when I met Helle Thorning-Schmidt, the first lady prime minister in Denmark, then I was inspired to be active in Danish politics there. When I was working as a fundraiser for Save the Children, then suddenly or luckily I could meet her. Then that was around 2 or 3 minutes talk. I changed my mindset and I just became the member of Social Democrats from that time. And still I'm active. And today I'm sitting in the Copenhagen Municipal Council representing Social Democratic Party as a member of Employment and Integration Committee.
Did you get elected already?
I lost the election by just a single one freaking vote, and that was unlucky. And fortunately, Mette Reisman, Honorably Welt, and she was elected in the Danish parliament. Then I got in as the first suppleant in.
So you made history already. Okay.
Thank you, buddy.
I love the story of you got involved in your community in other ways, and then basically through that involvement made some of those political connections as well, and then decided to take the passions you already had, the projects that you were already working on, decided to take them into the political arena as well. So yeah, I love that story.
Generally, I could easily sense that the importance of Danish language in the Danish labor market, even though I was a highly educated person, then I couldn't work as a corporate consultant immediately in the job center. After completing my Danish language within 3 or 4 years of my arrival, then I was somehow able to speak Danish fluently that time. Let's say that it was kind of average level of Danish. But it was good enough for me to communicate in Danish with the Danish citizen as well as international citizens who were on employment and or in the subsidized employment scheme or so on and so forth. I think learning Danish language was very crucial and turning point for my personal and professional development in the moment.
Wow. That's really great. And then we will pass over to Alina. I'm very curious to hear more from you on where you're from and sort of where the decision to run came from, and what are you running for and where?
Hello to everyone. Hi. Yes, my name is Alina Rachila. I'm born and raised in Chisinau, Republic of Moldova. That's a little country in the Eastern Europe, if you don't know. I moved to Denmark for 11 years ago together with my husband. So our 3 children, they are born here in Denmark. Now it's the second time I am a candidate. For the last 10 years, I've been living, and I'm still living in Tuno Kommune. This is in the south Denmark. And as the last time, also right now, I am a candidate for local elections in Tuno Kommune. So for around 5 years ago, I saw for the first time a Facebook post that Narcis have wrote, where he was telling about the crazy idea of internationals participated in local and regional elections. So I said, oh, that's amazing. I never heard about this before. So I got very curious. I started to read and learn more about this. So I was one of that group of Romanians that were candidates for first time in such a big number in whole Denmark. A lot of communes and some regions in Denmark got Romanian candidates for the first time. And as I also speak Romanian, and Romanian is a part of my daily life, so I also became one of that group. Short story, but interesting story, is that I participated. I have learned a lot of things last time for 4 years ago. While I was a candidate for the local elections in Tuno Kommune, I also got pregnant with my third child. So I've learned how is it to be a mother, pregnant, with studies, because I began to study as a nurse here in Denmark at that time. And apropos, it was Mette Fredriksen that have motivated me to study as a nurse here in Denmark, because she was saying we need more nurses, so why not? At that moment, for 4 years ago, I was pregnant, I was studying as a nurse, and I was a candidate. And I must tell you, it was hard, but it was so interesting to have this role. Also with 2 other children at home. So it was so crazy, but it was so great, a great feeling.
I think just one of those things would be hard.
I loved it. I think it's a great result because there were around 51 persons that have voted for me personally. I'm very thankful for all those 51 persons, inclusive me, that have voted. But I must mention that my son was born the night we were counting the votes. So, of course, being highly pregnant, I hadn't so much energy to be so active. But this time, that's a different story. Because this time I have finished my studies. Now it's more than a year since I work as a skilled specialist. I had to change from nurse to healthcare worker. So I am now a social assistant in home care, working here in Denmark with elderly and sick people. Now it's a totally different level because for 2 years ago, Social Democrats asked me, do you want to be a candidate again? So I said, only if I'm a candidate at regional elections in South Denmark, because regions work a lot with healthcare. And now this is not only my hobby, now it's my professional field where I work in. And so I said, so I have a lot more to put on the table if I'll be a candidate this time. So they also asked me, yes, maybe you also want to be not only for regional elections, but stay also for local elections in Tuna municipality. So I said, okay, but the focus must be on health, as my profession says. Now it's a big difference, very big difference. How is it going now and how it was that time? Because now I said no more children, it's enough. No more studies for now, it's enough for now. So it's a very big focus on the last 1.5 years since I said yes to be a candidate at both regional and local elections. So it's a lot of meetings, a lot of studies, courses online, live, different municipalities here in South region, South Denmark. So it's another level. And I also see the effect because we didn't get to the self-valgdagen, to self-election day, but I can see how people communicate with me. I can see the reactions, the effects of my campaign. So it's a totally different level.
That's great. And so it seems like the idea of being involved and having some say in the healthcare outputs really motivated you, especially at the regional level, where our listeners now hopefully have listened to episodes 2 and 3, where we talk about the differences and the responsibilities and the things that fall under the local council and the regional council. So that if you didn't hear that yet, listeners, go ahead and check that out so you'll understand more of what Alina is talking about with the importance of healthcare with the regional council.
Super. And well, I'm happy that we have now on board both Harry and Alina. Unfortunately, they're both from the same party, the Social Democrats. It's not something that we intended for. We opened the invitation to all parties, but the other parties don't seem to have any international candidates. So that made the situation as it is now. But let's see how can we make it so next time, in 4 years from now, there will be a lot more international candidates, hopefully at more than one party. Let's talk about how to become a candidate. So I'll just take the first step. In the first step, obviously, we have to see who can run for elections. Well, basically, think like this. If you can vote, you can run for elections. It's the same. So who can vote? People who are Europeans after they got their CPR number. So that can be what? After 3 weeks, a month, depending on your municipality. And non-Europeans after 4 years, regardless if you have citizenship or permanent residence or anything like that. That's irrelevant in this context. Of course, besides EU citizens, this time an exception has been made so that UK citizens can also vote on the same grounds as EU citizens. Of course, we should remember that there are other Nordic countries which are on the same grounds with the Europeans, the Icelandics and the Norwegians. Even though they are not technically part of EU, they benefit from the same rules and the same rights as EU citizens have. So, step 1, who can run? Anyone who can vote. Step 2, what can you run for? Local and regional elections, of course. And if you're an EU citizen, you can also consider running for European Parliament, which is also quite exciting. The only thing that we are barred if we don't have Danish citizenship is the Danish Parliament. So that's something that you need to keep in mind. And now we get to the fun part. A lot of people have asked us, do you have to join a political party or should you run as independent? My opinion is that you should always join a political party to have any real chance. But Harry, Alina, what do you guys think? Do you think anyone would have any chance in hell running as an independent in local elections?
Yes, mathematically, everyone who has interest in politics, they can stand as a communal or regional candidate without being the member of political party. But there are many advantages. If you are a member of a political party, then your party takes initiation to meet the deadlines, to fulfill all the required criteria, signature collection, this and that, and you don't have to worry about it. But if you are independently register yourself as a candidate, and then you have to get higher number of votes, maybe more than 2,000, 2,500, in some cases 3,000. But if you are a member of a political party, if you get around 1,000 approximately, then you will be elected. But it totally depends on the number of votes your political party gets. Because the Danish political system is built on the proportionality principle. That means if your political party gets a more number of votes, then it also gets more number of mandates. It is how it is. There is possibility of standing alone without being a member of political party, but it has a price and it comes with, right? And I suggest all international candidates, if it is possible, try to be a member of political party which can incorporate their social values, moral values, or integration values. For example, when I was a member of Social Democrats that time, when Heli Thorning was, then I was very happy to be a part of Social Democrats. Now I'm fighting internally that to move the immigration policy in another direction because they have tightened the immigration rules and regulation all the time, which is not pleasing for me. And I'm working on it, but one individual cannot make the difference. We all need to collaborate together.
Do you have any advice on that note? I'm glad that you brought that up for individuals that may be thinking as they vote in the local and regional elections coming up. Obviously, internationals are allowed to vote in that. Now, internationals may be very aware of the rhetoric coming from the national parties when it comes to immigration. Of course, these are day-to-day issues. So these are things like, as we discussed, healthcare. These are roads. These are schools. These are things very close to our community. But of course, our community as internationals is very much related to the fact that we can actually live here and be able to live here and come here to stay, work, and study and not have our lives made more difficult in that process. Do you have any advice for somebody listening that may be looking at the rhetoric changes at the national level from parties who maybe typically have supported internationals and are now taking a different stand, how they can separate that when they're voting at the local level compared to the national level, or how they should think about maybe most of the things they know are going to be from what they hear from the national parties, especially lately with a lot of the discussion and the debate at the national level being around immigration. How should they interpret that if they're in the international community like all of us when they're thinking about how to support local candidates that may belong to a certain party?
Yes, thank you very much for a beautiful question. It is, in fact, $1 million question. There are many immigrants who cannot differentiate between the local election and the national election, and they assimilate all the information together, and they try to evaluate the candidate in a way that you are representing whole nation, and I'm not going to vote you because you are representing Social Democrat Party or Danish People Party or so on and so forth. But local politics is totally different. Each and every community, they have their own way of doing, and they can decide in their own. They don't have to rely on the parliament. In some exceptional cases, of course, they have to have a kind of legislation and collaboration. This is something different. But in most of the cases, they can decide in their own. They can vote. All the member in the municipal council have right to vote and make the decision and make the rules and regulation as per the necessity. They don't have to rely on Danish parliament. And that's why if you vote the candidate, even though they are representing the hardliner political parties, then it can make sense still because you are influencing Danish society. And when you vote them, then you have right to talk with them, then invite in political forums and ask questions and propose a kind of synopsis which you have. If you have a good idea, then your representative will listen to you and try to represent that idea in municipal council. And that's the way to make the difference. And just sitting outside of the circle and just shouting, it doesn't make any sense. And that is the same message I tell my friends in my network, because they are very good at, sometimes some of them are very good at shouting and this and that, this is not okay, it should be like that, this party is this, and just they're very good at evaluating without being a part of it. And rather than shouting outside, please come inside and get involved in it and try to take the responsibility. And that is the message I want to give to everyone.
Well said.
Thank you, Harry. Alina, can you tell us how did you exactly became a candidate? Because, okay, let's say I want to become, well, I am a candidate myself, but let's say Derek here wants to become a candidate himself, and he wants to do it like specifically. Okay, now I want to be a member of, let's say, a party. My advice is always, if you go for local election, choose the largest parties there are, because then you need fewer votes to get in. So strategically speaking, that's smart. But Alina, when you decided to become a member of the Social Democrats, how did you actually do it?
That's a good question. Let's start with that first 5-6 years since after I moved to Denmark. So I have never thought about getting into politics or anything about I had no interest in Danish politics. Even if I was thinking, yes, my life here is in Denmark, I want to live my life here for the rest of my life, but I had no thoughts about Danish politics. But as more I was learning and understanding the Danish language, culture, and so on, I began to understand that politics are very important, especially when we talk about internationals in Denmark, as I am as one of a diaspora in Denmark. And I started to listen to different parties. One of the ways I was improving my Danish language skills was reading newspapers, listening to radio, listening to TV shows and news and so on. And there I got my eyes and ears on Mette Frederiksen. I believe that it was right before some Folketinget elections. That's why she was very a lot in the news. First moment was where she said that we need more nurses, and that's why I was in the moment where I was thinking, if I want to have a better life here in Denmark, so I think that's wise. Denmark needs more nurses. I wish to take some studies, so I'll follow her advice and I'll start some studies here in Denmark. But I also started to listen more. So, what are they talking about, the Social Democrats? What are some other parties talking about? I don't believe there is somebody that is 100% agree with a political, no matter if it's Denmark or outside of Denmark. But many of those things that Mette Frederiksen was talking about, I said, I agree. I like what she's talking about. And this was for 5-6 years ago. I started to listen more and read more about this. And so I've heard that the same year there should have been some local elections in every municipality. And after I have read that post that Narcis wrote, that internationals are also important. They can candidate and they can be elected. So I started to think, okay, which of the political parties I agree most with. So I said, if Mette Frederiksen motivated me, so that may mean that there are some good views for me also. So first thing I have searched on Google about social democrats here in Denmark. I wrote an email to the local social democrats in Tuna municipality. Their chef here in Tuna municipality, Lisbeth, she invited me to a conversation to hear about the social democrats, but she said everything is only in Danish language, so I must be ready that all people talk only in Danish. And if I have questions, then we can talk after that meeting. So I've got an invitation at one of the open meetings for social democrats in my municipality. Here it go. So it began. So I have got very interesting in what they were talking about, because they were talking about very good things, very important things, like how important is for families to have a good life in Denmark, how important is to have internationals very well integrated in Denmark, how important is the healthcare system in Denmark. And I agreed with many things they were talking about. So I decided to become a member of this party, of Social Democratic Party. As soon as you became a member, you pay that membership. Yes, as soon as you pay the membership, so you have access to participate at the closed meetings. And where they are closed, so you learn even more about the local and international politics. And I think it's enormously interesting that when you talk about such a big political party as Social Democrats, you must know that they are represented in the Folketinget, in region, at local. And we are so lucky to have also a prime minister, so the head of a party. It's also the head of a country, if I can say so. So this dynamics between how is it going up and down between all these three levels, it was very interesting for me. I must just say that in the beginning, I wasn't super good at Danish language. So there were things where I was saying, what are they talking about? Most of the social democrats here in the South Denmark are people that are not so young. They hear bad. And also here in South Denmark, a lot of people speak not rigsdansk, that it's very specific, a local way to speak Danish. So I really had to take a lot of notes while they were speaking and read them at home and try to find more information about this on the official sites.
Did you find that the language ever held you back? Actually, for either of you, was the language ever something that held you back, or did you have any specific reactions as an international that maybe surprised you a little bit in either of those?
Yes, language was something where, because none of my colleagues here speak any other language. So it was very important to understand as good as possible what are they talking about, and to say it right, to answer back, to say what I was thinking as right as possible on Danish language, because when you speak with elderly people, you must be very precise in your
Like myself, I live in Copenhagen. Sometimes I take for granted, and it's almost a false friend in a way, where it's almost too easy to get by, and it's too easy to assume that I'm going to be understood when maybe I'm not, especially when it comes to some of these political issues where my Danish is okay, but I express myself better in English. So I'm sure that was maybe a challenge.
It was a challenge, and sometimes even now, now I have finished Danish studies, I have finished the Danish language school, and it was a high level I have finished, but still I know I have my accent. I will always have it. No matter what language I speak, I have my Moldavian accent. And I know I speak fast because I also have a lot of thoughts in my head. And I know that a person that has never spoke another language, it was only the mother language, only the Danish language, and maybe a very specific way to speak it. If we compare Tuna municipality with Copenhagen, it's like the Ulkens Denmark is the longest away from Copenhagen. Here are no big cities, it's mostly a countryside, so people have a very specific way of speaking, of understanding things, of jokes, and so on. So I really have to use a lot of energy to learn all of this from zero. I have no Danish family, so it was really on my personal motivation to be as good as possible. But I was also working with older people because I have also worked a lot in healthcare system. So I have learned to understand even people that have no teeth in mouth or no hearing apparatus. Now I understand it all.
Super, Alina. Thank you so much. Harry, can you tell us how practically how does one become nominated internally inside the party? Because okay, I'm a member. I say I want to be a candidate. It's just it. I just go to the next meeting and I raise my hand and say I want to be a candidate. Make sure you put me on the list. End of story. Harry, can you tell me that?
There is a certain procedure we need to follow as a candidate in any political party. In Social Democratic Party, there is so-called local committee, local distribution. Then they need to finalize the number of candidates they want to stand off. Then let's say that I'm one of the candidates in the local committee. Then they send my name forward, following all the procedure and meeting all the deadlines on time without having any complication there. Then there is also something what we call afstemning in Danish, that is internal voting procedure. Only the member of Social Democratic Party have right to vote the candidates. And all those candidates who have more number of votes will be selected. And let's say that if I get the least vote and there is less probability that I'll be selected in afstemning or internal voting procedure. Luckily, I have been selected. This is a different story, but this is the procedure.
Okay. So if we are to resume for the future candidates, the advice is one, select a party. Don't try to be independent because especially as an international, that'll be very, very hard. Two, just simply become a member and write to them and say, hey, I'm an international. I may not speak Danish, but I can motivate thousands of local internationals to go and vote for the first time. And I'm sure the moment you mention thousands and votes in the same phrase, they'll be like, yes, please come. Let's do it. You can be our candidates. Isn't it like that, Harry?
As there is one important thing I would like to mention in this context, that I have talked with many people and I have also encouraged them to be a part of Danish politics. They mean to say that they are not perfect in Danish and they are hesitated to participate in the committee meeting because they don't understand each and everything. And I told them that nobody is perfect and we are that nobody. And if you believe the self-fulfilling prophecy that if you believe that you can do it, then you can do it. And it is all about mentality. And then I'm also running the courses and training programs from different non-resident Nepalese associations, organizations, and my own organization, a knowledge group, which I have established with like-minded people. And slowly and gradually, they have changed their mind, but it takes time, and it's a long process. So in this context, I thought that it's important for everyone to listen that nobody is perfect. Don't think that I'll be perfect and I'll be a part of Danish society. Just come and participate, learn something. And there is also a different procedure of learning Danish language. If you combine different methods like listening, writing, and if you also watch the debate programs visually on television, then your mind can read the lips reading. Even though you are not thinking about it, the mind will do that. And after a long period of time, the things are getting better and better, and you never know at a point you can fluently speak Danish. And that's the way of learning procedure.
No, thank you for the advice, Harry. Actually, I can also share slowly how I became a candidate, because I joined politics, Danish politics, in 2011. That was many, many years ago. And I joined actually without speaking even one word in Danish. And what I did is that I entered the party and I said, I don't understand. And they had to switch to English so that I can understand. So I live in a big city, fair enough. Alina will not be able to do that in turn there, but in Aalborg, it was not so difficult for them to switch to English, so that I can be part of the conversation. And actually, the first 5 years in Danish politics, I did not speak one word of Danish. And actually, it was intentional, because my campaign back then was make Danish politics accessible, make Danish politics bilingual, make them accessible in that way. So I intentionally said, I'm not going to speak one word in Danish, no matter what. However, after thousands and thousands of meetings, 14 years later, even if you don't want to learn the language, it comes to you. It's like, now I actually understand what they're talking about. Damn. Okay, there you go. It's that I did not learn the language by actively learning it in a school. I just went to meetings and meetings and meetings. While I asked them to be in English, they did them in English, but there was also meetings where I just didn't bother. So I just sit there in the back and listened. And then you listen once, twice, 3 times, 100 times, 200 times. And then even if you don't want to learn the language, you will learn the language. So that's another way to do it, is if you don't have like a stress time, like, I need to learn the language in 2 years, but it's like you want to acquire it naturally, simply join a political party, stay there in the back and listen. And with time, you understand the context, you'll see how the different things make sense, connect to each other. But it is like a lot of use of energy from your side to do something like that. Like it gives you a headache.
It is also kind of reverse strategy. We all have the different approaches, and it was fantastic. And that was intentionally done, intentional move. Nice to know that.
Like, that's what I'm trying to say. If you have friends who would like to join politics, it doesn't matter where you are with the language. It just matters, why do you want to be in politics? Do you want to represent others? Do you have something that you burn about and you want to do that? Because it's not like being a politician is not a job. It's not like you should be, I don't know, prepared in a certain way. It's just, you just need to represent your group within a context. Did you know that actually, legally speaking, there is no language of politics? You're not obliged to speak Danish in the city council. Like, I actually checked on that.
Exactly. You can just be quiet and without saying anything, you can just nick your head up and down and side by side and just go and learn something and come back. You can do that.
That's harder than speaking Danish to me sometimes. Saying nothing is sometimes harder.
I would also like to share a little bit of the experience we have here in South Denmark. Borgermeister here in Tuna municipality, he is originally from Germany, but he is a part of minority here in Tuna municipality. And he became a Burgermeister last time.
That's a mayor for the ones listening.
Now he's a candidate again. I would like to say that we have a lot of German-speaking people here in Tuna municipality, and he has a lot of support, but not only from German-speaking people, but also from Danish-speaking people. And when he speaks, like yesterday, I've been participated at the debate panel in Tuna municipality with all candidates, and when he was speaking, of course, he had the accent, because he is speaking 2 languages, just like all of us here. And I could hear some people around me like listening to him and say, "Oh, he has an accent." Yes, of course he has it, because Danish it's not the first language, but look how he's working on himself for speaking Danish as good as possible. Of course he has an accent. It's a part of him having an accent. And another example, I think it's important to say when we think about international politics, at the meeting in Aalborg, the year meeting we had, I've met one of those burgomaesters in one of the Danish municipalities. I think her name is Christina. And she's also from an international family, just born and raised here in Denmark.
Polish, Krystyna Kiroziak, yeah.
As an international, I think she demonstrated a lot of political power. Listening about her experience, like she was elected, and second time when she was elected, she got, I think, 15 or 20,000 personal votes in a little municipality.
She became the youngest mayor in Denmark history.
Yes, she was so amazing and such a great example of a politician who has not Danish roots, let's say, who has international roots. And another thing that I think is so interesting to think about politics. When we think about how many people must vote for you in order to get a place in a local municipality or regional municipality, I have researched how many votes different candidates got. And here in Tuna municipality, we have candidates that got elected in the municipality with around 100 personal votes. Yes, it's a geographically giant municipality, but we have only 40,000 people living in our municipality, like all of Tuna municipality. If we speak about regional, so the maximum personal votes a person had last time that was elected, she had around 147,000 personal votes on the whole regional of Denmark. But the minimum, because there were around 40% that got elected in regional council of Denmark, around 1,000, maybe a little bit less than 1,000. A giant differences between how many personal votes you can get and still have a chance to be elected. I have made some mathematics here, and I said we have 31 places in the local council, and we have around 240 candidates. So I said it's around 1 out of 4 you have a chance to be elected. That's a great chance.
And with that, we say so much thank you to Alina and Harry for being part of episode 4. This has been an episode where we have tried to explain a little bit of that you can also become a candidate, and you should become a candidate because so few internationals actually run. And one of the reasons why the voting percentage is so low among internationals is mainly because we don't have candidates. You know, you as a voter, you want to be reflected by the ones you choose. And if you don't have any internationals running, then of course it's a bit hard to vote for someone that you don't know or you don't see yourself reflected in. So thank you so much. This was episode 4. I am Narcis George Matake, and with me I have
Derek Hartman, and we will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for listening, everybody.